Hello and welcome back to News and Clues from Earth Defense Headquarters. I'm Joanne Richards, Executive Director of this nonprofit based in Northern California, north of San Francisco. Thank you so much for joining me tonight. We're going to start with some information. Somebody asked me a question last week about if the raptors use technology and how does that work, because they're small arms and it looks like maybe they don't have very much strength in their hands. But Mark reminded me this weekend that the raptors actually have hands basically like ours, except they have claws. And they only have, they have 3 claws and basically a thumb, so it's an opposable thumb like ours, so they're pretty well able to grasp things and whatever. But the cool thing about them is that they, yes, they have technology. What I love about them is they believe in not harming Mother Earth. This is their home world. They love it. It's their mother world. They love it. They don't want to hurt it in any way. So they might go, it took them like about 100,000 years to get to, Mark said, like our maybe Revolutionary War era, because they don't use machines here on Earth, and they do steal technology. And so they build things very slowly, very organically. Now, when another species would crash here, they would often steal their ship and figure out how to fly it and whatever. And they're certainly not opposed to having factories and machinery on bases on the moon and Mars and other planets or wherever, apparently. And I didn't know this before. They have lots of factories. I don't know where they are, but they have lots of factories on their planets and whatever. And again, on their bases, any place but here on Earth. So that was news to me. But they do use technology. I know they're very adept at using computers and all kinds of things. They're very smart. So I hope that answers the viewer's question about that. I also wanted to read to you, as part of my news part of the evening, a quote by a senator who was 300 years old at the Iran Persepolis Interstellar Treaty Conference in 1971 that I'm going to be speaking about in England in just a few days. And this is Senator Capt, and it's a little bit long, not too bad, but it's one of my favorite quotes. I read it as often as I can. I hope you enjoy it. The galaxy's great spiritual thinkers from every sentient species have taught the wisdom of seeing beyond any appearance of lack or limitation. Because they recognized the natural perfection at the heart of all life, they saw the greatest possibilities. They knew that wholeness, beauty, peace, and harmony were always present and would express if recognized and embodied. These spiritual masters saw their world with eyes of wonder and awe, even if they had no eyes. They teach that each of us lack for nothing. Each of us is part of a universe so abundant that it is impossible to count or comprehend the reach and richness of it. Infinite means never ending, never ceasing, always replenished, always greater and more, beyond imagining. You have access to the infinite. Your nature is part of the divine, and the divine is ever giving, ever pouring forth with anything and everything that is needed. The universe would not exist if it were not a self-sustaining and continuously expanding system. Each sentient life is part of that system, and you partake of its nature and composition. Like the water that makes up most of the human body, the infinite abundance of the universe is inherent in us and in you. There can be no separation or a canceling out. A defeating of both would happen and nothing would exist. Very wise comments from a 300-year-old, I wouldn't call them a lizard, but they call themselves lizards. Anyway, tonight I'm going to give you some announcements about what's coming up for me and in the Bay Area. The agenda for tonight's show, I'm going to talk to you about the Dragon Hill Research Center here that I've developed and want to expand on. And then I'd like to spend some time talking about you know, what it's like to go visit prison, what it's like to be married to an inmate, what it's like to be married to my specific, unique, wonderful husband. So let's do some announcements first. This week, as you may or may not know, I am traveling to England on Wednesday, day after tomorrow. On Wednesday, I'm speaking at the Probe UK conference in Lytham St. Anne's, which is in northern England, near Blackpool. I'm also speaking, I'm going to speak both days, Saturday and Sunday. I'm going to give a talk about the Iran Treaty Conference and also about secret bases and the ISIS connection going on in the Middle East right now, and well, the ISIS connection to some aliens. I'm also giving 2 other talks at 2 smaller meetings, one about the Battle of Vesta that happened in 1979, and also the that's another one. The Battle of Vesta, and probably fun facts about aliens. And then down near London the following weekend, I'm going to be speaking about the Exeter conference that happened in 1961 when Mark was a young boy. So that'll be fun. And then October 24th and 25th, when I come back from England, I'll be a guest, or I'll have a table at the UFO Con Experiencer Conference. It's going to happen in Sacramento, October 24th, 25th. I think it's at the Crown Plaza Hotel along Highway 80 there, if you're familiar with the area. And if you haven't bought tickets, it should be a great event. There's great speakers: Tammy Adams, Victor Camacho, Cynthia Crawford, Barbara Lamb, and Lorianne Fenton. So I hope you can come. Hope to meet you there. That would be great. Okay, let's get on with the show. So my home here in Northern California, San Anselmo, is the base, the headquarters for Earth Defense Headquarters. And amongst all the things I have here, we've set up a Dragon Hill Research Center, is what we call it, because our property's name is Dragon Hill. Excuse me. Where the part of land that the house is set on, if you look at it from the air, I guess it looks like a big lizard from the air, and the Miwoks thought of this area and the part where our house is as the eye of the lizard. And, you know, we love dragons. We love, obviously, for good reasons. But anyway, Mark has named the property Dragon Hill, and we have a Dragon Hill Research Center. So what is its purpose? Its purpose is for people to be able to come, do research in a nice garden-like setting, in a library-like setting, and give themselves access to all of Mark's writings that he's provided me over the years about his family history, about the political history, all the world history stuff that he's been writing since I've known him, and probably he started before that. We have numerous files. I used to have a publishing company, so we have numerous files about the environment and transportation and different history topics and the military and just all kinds of eclectic topics that I would use. Some in my newspaper and literary magazine. Some I would go visit cool places, so there's information about lots of fun places. And then Mark's been gathering information forever, as far as I know. I've incorporated a lot of his files. He's just a consummate researcher, and with all his writing and projects, he was always collecting stories and good articles and pieces of history and whatever. So we have this amazing collection of files, and then on top of that, we have this amazing collection of books. I mean, there are books going back. We have a collection of like 1950s and 60s science fiction paperbacks. We have, you know, books by Arthur C. Clarke. I've got several books on witchcraft and magic and fairies. We have, what is it called? Like the parliamentary records that you can, I have a CD or whatever that you can go look and find all different parliamentary records. We have, I have this fabulous music collection that one of Mark's friends, when he passed, he wanted to, you know, bequeath something to Mark, and Mark said, why don't you donate your record collection to EDH? So I've got this fabulous collection of classical music and Broadway soundtracks, and you name it, it would be heaven just to listen to this great music if you come and research, or for a music student to come and hear older music, because most of this is old, a lot of opera. So it's like I wonder, well, why am I gonna, what am I gonna do with all these records? But now that I have them here, it would be set the atmosphere perfectly for somebody to study and have the music going on in the background. Let's see what else. Oh, and just to note, a few people have been to visit so far, Carrie Cassidy being one, so she can vouch that I do have all this cool stuff sitting around. And a friend of mine who's going to come be on the show in a few weeks, she's been here several times, has helped me with our projects and helps scan things and helps me get things ready to make them available to the public. I have another friend who's very aware and has great energy. She's been here. We've had a couple of friends from England come here. One's very psychic, so she's had great experience with the elementals here. And Dr. Salt, one of our board members, has been here to do research and read through Mark's stuff. So we've had a few people. And one of the things I would like to do, and the older I get and the more I think about retirement, hopefully someday, like in 10 or 15 years, probably. But I really want to expand EDH, and part of that includes expanding the research center to make it a lot easier for people to come and enjoy and just really revel in all the wealth of information that Mark has written and provided for public use and research. I can see us having, an office, a bigger office, because this place isn't very big yet, or isn't very big, and it's not getting any bigger, but I can just see us having a bigger office so that we can have more of like a little living room lounge area for people to hang out and read, and then lots more bookshelves. And most of the books are in another room. The files are in one room. The books are in a couple of different rooms. But, I have file cabinets in other parts of the house and books in other parts of the house. So I want to combine it in one wonderful area. So I'm going to be looking over time, there's no huge rush, but over time I'm going to be looking for a place to, manifesting that we want a bigger place. We want to have this as an official research center where people can come and hang out. We can have classes, we can do workshops, maybe not a huge conference, but a small conference, a retreat, small groups, so we can have really intensive workshops and really get into what he's talking, or what he's been writing and providing for us. Because the things I talk about and the things that when I go give talks and whatever, that's just glimpses into the very long academic pieces that he's written. So if you're excited about the kind of information and the science and the history that Mark's been writing, you would really benefit from coming and seeing the full items. And because even with the reports that I sell through EDH, there's so much more. I have thousands of pages of just what I thought was the family history, and now he's even filling that in with the longer reports. So we have thousands and thousands of pages that I'm sure people would love to read. How can you help? Well, number one, hopefully you'll be interested in helping us expand this project. I'm not just, this isn't a plea for money, but, show some interest. The more interest I have, the more I know that this is a good idea. You can become a member of EDH. And if you want to come visit now, you just need to, get to know me a little bit, fill out an application. It's very informal. Let me know you want to come, and we can make some arrangements. I'm not here every day, all day. I have bookkeeping clients that I have to go see, but I really want to make this more and more available to people. Some of the other cool things that we have here, Mark has, while he's been in prison, and I'm looking around at them, he's built these amazing dioramas of historical things. I have a lighthouse, an observatory. I have North Beach in the, I'm saying the 1800s, North Beach, San Francisco in the 1800s. And they're very detailed and very, well, they're not doll houses. They're very tiny, just dioramas, you know, made out of wood and glass. And there's little people in them, and it's really showing the activities and the history. So it's just another way to learn history by looking in all the little nooks and crannies of this great diorama. I have, what else do I have? You know, I've got different I've got memorabilia from his father. You know, I've got some of his father's pipes, his Air Force goggles, his flight goggles. I have some of his dad's uniforms. I've got huge certificates that Mark's been awarded by political parties for his, you know, participation. So there's lots of fabulous history here. And once we expand, then I can move different pieces out of their hiding places and, you know, put them on display. It would almost be like a mini museum from the Cold War heroes that I talk about all the time. So let's see what else. So again, you know, if anybody's interested in coming to see the place, just let me know, and I think you'll find it very worthwhile. And everybody that's been here has enjoyed being here, and just to see the amount of information that we have here that I can't even begin to share when I'm talking, you know, for an hour at a time. It's amazing. And to think that he's constantly writing and providing new information, that's even better. Now, one cool thing that I forgot to announce is that in 2 weeks, my friend Marilee Milmo, who has been researching on her own for over 40 years, is going to come co-host the show with me. And we are going to talk about different alien species. And she likes to really get into what the differences between the species are, and whether they're focused on service to self or service to others. And so that'll be fascinating. She's been to see Mark 2 or 3 times at least. So they have a nice, friendly relationship. Marilee is very familiar with the elementals. So she and I get along really well. And she's very knowledgeable. She's a lot of fun. And it's going to launch a series of shows that Mark suggested I do about spend, you know, 1 show at a time on a very specific species. Like I did last week, I got into the raptors. So we can there's lots more to do about the raptors, but the different insectoid species, different, you know, oceanic species, there's so many species out there. And what will help me, besides talking to Mark, is that he's written basically a dissertation on the different species that are out there. And so we can really delve into more of the specifics about what they look like, you know, what their, I don't know, political agendas are, just, you know, lots of things about different species that we aren't normally talking about in different conferences and whatever. So anytime you have any questions, just start chiming in. I think that does it for the research center. That's my dream, you know, to flow into retirement and really have that in place. And I hope we can make that happen. And what I would like to do now is start my discussion on basically what it's like to visit the prison, what it's like to be married to an inmate, what it's like to be married to my specifically unique inmate husband. And I think we'll start with what it's like to be married to him. You know, as somebody blogged, like probably after the first show, they said they could tell right off, you know, that I love my husband and I speak about him with pride. And that is certainly true. He's, you know, he's good looking, he's charming, he's friendly, he's smart, the smartest man I know. He's got a great sense of humor. He tells great stories. He can relate history like nobody I know. If I'd had him as a history teacher, maybe I would have, I mean, I always loved history, but he makes history come alive. he loves his kids. He loves his grandkids. He doesn't get to see them. They don't live here in the States, but he does talk to them on occasion, and he loves them. And most of the time we're swapping stories about grandchildren. So that's we talk a lot about the UFO stuff and the military stuff, but we spend a lot of time talking about our grandkids because we adore our grandkids, and as good grandparents should. Every day with him is an education. Every time I go visit him, I'm learning something new. And I may have said this before, we've been together 18 years now. We've never played a game in the visiting room ever. We don't play cards. It's not that we don't know how, or we never have in the past, but we spend our time talking. So I would say we probably have the best communication, better than 99% of or 90% of most married couples, because they aren't able to spend that. Well, they don't spend the amount of time that we do, and basically we only have a few hours a week. So we talk. And other places we've had 6 hours in one day. Now we're lucky if we have 3 hours. So we have to pack in a lot of talking. And you're talking about the house, what's leaking this week with the latest rainstorm, or what's happening with the landscaping, or what's happening with this or that, or what's happening with neighbors, and just we talk about husband, wife, family, household stuff. And it's not like, yes, we live apart, but it's not like he doesn't know what's going on here and he's not involved, because he is totally involved with what's going on in this household. And he puts in his 2 cents, and we communicate, we talk about it, we figure it out. I don't want to figure out how to take care of this big house by myself. So we talk it over and we figure out what's the best route. Like I said, he's made my life very I've become much more adventuresome. He's opened my eyes to many things, from philosophy to looking at religion and spiritual things differently. I used to be I'm not saying I'm not religious, but I used to be a very religious, church-going person. I'm not anymore. And I don't regret that decision to leave that church. I have no ill feelings towards that particular church, but he's opened up my eyes on a lot of things. And so I'm grateful for that, because I have a broader sense of what's real and what's really out there, and what is a lot of different truth. And I will say that he is an honorable Navy officer. When he comes out into the room, my cat is joining me again. When he comes out into the visiting room, he walks up straight, his shoulders back, head held high, and he is every bit the officer that he was 30 plus years ago. And the men there all respect him. And I would say most of the staff respect him, or at least they don't try to mess with him. So it's really, I'm very proud to be his wife and go visit him. Now, that being said, he's also, I'm the need to know wife. Because of his career in the military, I don't get to know everything. I don't need to know everything. He still abides by certain secrecy oaths. And I've learned a lot, but he's never told me anything that I shouldn't know, or that is going to get me in trouble, or arrested, or send him to federal prison. Because if he breaks his secrecy oaths, he's going to go to federal prison, or he could be tried for treason or whatever. So he upholds those secrecy oaths. But like I said, I with the stuff that he's revealing and teaching me so that I can come out and share with everybody else, I've learned a whole lot. And I have to say, I'm really sure that I know a lot more than his mother was ever privy to. And the history to me is very exciting and fascinating, and I love sharing that. I've said that numerous times. Okay. Now I also have to say, it's been 18 years. When we met, He had a lawyer working on his case, and he thought he'd be out in 10 years. I mean, 2 years, I'm sorry. He thought he'd be out in 2 years. The lawyer was working on the case. He thought he'd be out in 2 years. I thought, oh, cool. I can wait for 2 years. That's no big deal. And 2 years has grown into 18 years. So yes, do I get lonely? Do I get depressed? Is it frustrating that he's not here to take care of the leaky roof? Sure. Can he do anything about it right now? No. So we're doing the best we can. That's all I can say. And in the meantime, you know, he's sharing all this incredible information. Now, yes, I'd rather he come out and share it if he could, or, you know, if his price for freedom would be to stop talking about all this, he would probably stop talking about all this. But even if he did, we'd still have plenty of information to carry on. And there's so much more that, you know, we haven't shared that I have sitting around here. So the hardest part is that, you know, yes, he has a life without parole sentence, and I don't know if we can reverse that. I don't know if we can change that. You know, we have different lawyers at different times looking into different avenues. So, you know, somebody thinks of one thing to look at, but you need more than one. You need lots of little things to be able to have enough to get you back into court. So there we are. It's like, you know, we make a little progress and then it gets shot down. So it's like, you know, we've tried a governor's pardon, we may try another one, but it's still, you need more than, you know, please let me out type of thing. You need information. You need to prove that the governor, that, you know, this guy is worthy of letting out, that he would be a valuable asset to society, that he's not going to be a threat to society more, that he's done all these positive things in prison to show that he's reformed. Not that Mark needed to reform. Mark is truly innocent of what he was convicted of, as are 1% of the prison population. But still, you know, you don't get a governor's pardon, for example, or any kind of pardon easily. But I can say, you know, he's taking all kinds of classes to show that he is doing whatever it is that they might ask him to do. He's taking self-improvement classes, and he's teaching classes, and he, you know, he's involved with different inmate activities, and, you know, when there's a veterans group at the particular prison, he's involved with that. He's trying to teach a debate class right now. He takes creative writing classes. You know, he's actually taking an extra college class right now. He's working on a master's in astrophysics. So it's not that the guy's sitting around watching TV or, you know, making little use of his time. He's very productive, and he actually has a day job where he's a clerk for a couple of people in the day room, I think, and also for one of the counselors. So he's busy all the time, and he's involved with the different inmate activities and groups, you know, and he walks every day and he keeps himself in shape. But that being said, again, he's getting older. He's in his early 60s. He has health problems, and prison's not the best place to deal with health problems. It took them like about 100,000 years to get to, Mark said, like our maybe Revolutionary War era, because they don't use machines here on Earth, and they do steal technology, and so they build things very slowly, very organically. Now, when another species would crash here, they would often steal their ship and figure out how to fly it and whatever. And they're certainly not opposed to having factories and machinery on bases on the moon and Mars and other planets or wherever, apparently, and I didn't know this before. They have lots of factories I don't know where they are, but they have lots of factories on their planets and whatever, and again, on their bases, any place but here on Earth. So that was news to me. But they do use technology. I know they're very adept at using computers and all kinds of things. They're very smart. So I hope that answers the viewer's question about that. I also wanted to read to you, as part of my news part of the evening, a quote by a senator who was 300 years old at the Iran Persepolis Interstellar Treaty Conference in 1971 that I'm going to be speaking about in England in just a few days. And this is Senator Maka, and it's Hello, and welcome back to News and Clues from Earth Defense Headquarters. I'm Joanne Richards, Executive Director of this nonprofit based in Northern California, north of San Francisco. Thank you so much for joining me tonight. We're going to start with some information. Somebody asked me a question last week about if the Raptors use technology and how does that work. It's a little bit long, not too bad, but it's one of my favorite quotes. I read it as often as I can. I hope you enjoy it. The galaxy's great spiritual thinkers from every sentient species have taught the wisdom of seeing beyond any appearance of lack or limitation. Because they recognized the natural perfection at the heart of all life, they saw the greatest possibilities. They knew that wholeness, beauty, peace, and harmony were always present and would express if recognized and embodied. These spiritual masters saw their world with eyes of wonder and awe, even if they had no eyes. They teach that each of us lack for nothing. Each of us is part of a universe because, you know, they're small arms and it looks like maybe they don't have very much strength in their hands. But Mark reminded me this weekend that the raptors actually have hands basically like ours, except they have claws. And they only have, they have 3 claws and basically a thumb. So it's an opposable thumb like ours. So they're pretty well able to grasp things and whatever. But the cool thing about them is that they, yes, they have technology. What I love about them is they believe in not harming Mother Earth. This is their home world. They love it. It's their mother world. They love it. They don't want to hurt it in any way. So they might go